So how does WaBi or Walimai utilize the blockchain then? Like, this is one of the questions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there's two blockchains, right? We're building the blockchains right now, right? I don't want to say that we have the blockchains, so we're building them. It's not operational yet. So the way that there's one blockchain is for the logistics and anti-counterfeit system, and the second blockchain is for the loyalty program. And we need to use two because there's very different qualities that we need from them. So the first one, the way that it's utilized is to track all of the transactions and to have all of the data clearly of what went where, which product, with which digital identity is essentially with which owner. Right? So that's one. The way that it works well for Walimai is, well, first in terms of clarity in the data that's being generated, the additional services that can be generated on top of that. But very importantly, it's to do with the credibility that it gives. Some people say, oh, it's blockchain, so it's going to be very secure. Well, if you have very secure server, it's kind of the same, right? You can't tamper with that too easily. However, if I have a very secure server, potentially I could fake my own data, right? And then with blockchain, I cannot do that. So we're looking at that as an organization, and we want to say that, well, even we cannot tamper with our data. It's all on blockchain, so it secures us as an organization from risks. But on top of that, it gives more credibility that people see that even we cannot tamper with it. So they trust us more, and that's the one thing that is super important for us. Right now, when we produce the labels, very often we got the question, okay, where do you produce the labels? Is it in China itself? It's like, yes, it's in China. And say, well, but then, can't they manufacture a fake them?
Or there's a counterfeit label.
Exactly. Or can't they, like, when they produce like 1,000 labels, so you can produce 1,000 fake labels? Well, they can. Fine, but they will not work because we encode them in a different place, and the manufacturer doesn't know anything about that encoding.
Right.
Yeah, when they get encoded, this is the critical piece of information that's being written onto the chip, and the manufacturer has nothing to do with it. Right. So they cannot fake the labels. Same idea with the blockchain. Now coming to the blockchain with the loyalty points, like I was saying, we'll start with Ethereum, then most likely move to a different blockchain. That is, again, the credibility in the fact that people will not be able to, the company or us or the merchants will not be able to tamper with the value of those labels. I can tell you my personal experience with some of the airlines. Like you fly, sometimes you choose you do choose the airline because you are part of their mileage program, right? You collect those miles. And then a year later, you realize that what used to be 20,000 miles is now 50,000 miles. And you're like, oh, why was I collecting them? And that kills the credibility of the system. So with WaBi being on blockchain, that's not going to happen. On top of that, there are additional services that again can be built in terms of the data, in terms of the understanding of the consumers. There's lots of things in that direction as well. And one important quality that we will look at when we're choosing the blockchain for WaBi itself is to do with integrations with other players. For example, if they are integrated with some of the payment methods, that could be very beneficial for WaBi because I'm speaking potentially now, but let's say we work with someone like Tanix, for example. They're also based in Singapore. If I'm saying if, right, we don't have any discussion, but I don't want to claim anything that's not happening yet. But if, let's say, people can pay with their 10x cards but using WaBi, that's just an additional use case. Right? So that's the kind of features that we're going to be looking at blockchain.
But it's also just, to sort of expand on your point that blockchain essentially is a much better platform for loyalty points because loyalty points now is a huge pain in the neck for a lot of companies and issuers because they have a huge liability, so outstanding liabilities of unclaimed points that they have to keep on their balance sheets and they cannot utilize. For people, similarly, as Alex was mentioned before, it is actually the scope is too narrow and it just becomes not worthwhile. That's why only airlines or airline alliances or like hotel chains made a successful use case for them. But with the blockchain, it becomes much more, much easier to transfer and move around these points, and just becomes a much more valuable loyalty point from the consumer side as well. So yes,
maybe it can be very easily understood from the accounting concept. So right now, when there were some questions or maybe even issues about the way that loyalty points for airlines should be accounted on the balance sheet. And when the new rules came in and the companies had to account for a big liability, because points are liability for them, there's Delta had almost $4 billion as a liability on their balance sheet. And it's kind of difficult for the company, especially if you're a traded company. It affects how you perform in the stock market and things like that. It's a pretty serious question for them. When it's a crypto point, the company doesn't have the liability. It's your crypto point, and you use it, you own it. It's not the liability of the company, it's an asset that you own.
That is not a credit instrument if you want. Yes.
Yeah, it's essentially an instrument, right? So it becomes very, very different in terms of accounting concepts then, and it works much better for the companies.
So we decided, if we want to build a blockchain, we might as well do it the right way. I mean, not blockchain. If we want to build a loyalty program, we might as well build it on the most advanced platform available now.